Transformative Soul Signals podcast with your hosts, Lynnessa
and Monique. Join us as we share our genuine perspectives, guidance, and experiences.
And as we navigate transformative healing journeys and spirituality. Hello, beautiful people. Back again. I've had a hell of a past month. It's been an emotional roller coaster. So today I wanted to talk about what I experienced, and that is noticing patterns in our life and the kind of healing chaos that they bring. And when I say healing chaos, imagine yourself in the middle of this tornado where you feel like your life and everything you feel to be secure or comfortable gets uprooted, and then you're supposed to sit calmly in the middle of it, rooted, grounded, centered. I usually try to picture myself there enjoying a nice cup of tea. At least that's what I see in my head. And I feel like that should be the ultimate goal. It's, of course, easier said than done. But let me tell you, a couple of weeks ago, I was tested and I failed miserably. But it's okay because it gave me more seasoning and experience to share with you guys when you go through similar situations. So you can probably recall the last episode where I talked about not letting your head take over, and I told you guys I've been working on it forever, probably since birth. And in professing that on the show, I also basically profess that to the universe, because that's what happens when we make these kinds of professions or statements out loud. When we say or proclaim these things, we send out a soul signal, which is what this podcast is all about. But we send out a soul signal that we're ready to change or go to a new or next level. In other words, we acknowledge a pattern that we've repeated in our lives that usually we're not really happy with and that we're ready to leave behind. And the act of doing this sets transformative energies in motion. And the universe puts us to the test. And boy, was I tested this week. So how are you tested? Well, you get confronted with the very thing you say you're trying to overcome to see if you're really ready to move on from that lesson or if you've really overcome it. And that is going to get you to the next level that you're desiring. Like, for instance, you would say something like, I'm really setting my boundaries. I'm really noticing, how people overstep them, and I'm not taking this anymore, and I'm not going to let people take advantage of me. And then the test begins. Boom, some jerk or energy vampire or manipulative person shows up to test you and push you to the limits to see if you've really learned that lesson. And I noticed this happening all the time. And it was like, once I saw the patterns or noticed the patterns or woke up to the patterns, it was like, wow, life really is kind of sort of like a game. And one thing I've noticed is you'll have multiple chances to pass these tests, especially when you send out that signal or vibration that you're ready for a change. And that's when you notice the pattern emerge. Well, at least that's been my experience up until now. Now, if you notice the pattern and react differently than you normally or previously would act, then your life literally, or your reality, it transforms and you move forward. And you notice that things are happening differently. You know that saying that people say, like, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over, expecting different results. Well, this is like the epitome of that, because you'll notice like certain patterns in your life. And for me, boundaries and like leading with my head, those are like two big patterns, and they will manifest or show up in different ways. But I noticed that like the same situation kept repeating itself. And even though there may have been different people involved, it was still like the the basic the same basic situation occurring. And I was like, wait a minute, this seems familiar. And so it's like once you decide to make a different move, then everything changes and you're closer to the version of yourself that you envision. I want to share with you guys, just so you get like an idea when you look at your life, because sometimes we're oblivious to things are happening so fast, so we don't slow down and notice when certain patterns keep happening. So I want to share with you guys like one particular pattern that I noticed that kept happening. And I'm sure that many of you can relate to this, because when you're doing your inner healing, when you're doing your work, your vibration goes up and you start to attract, a lot of unfortunately broken people, because, they're not doing their own work, their own healing. And so that energy that you're, putting out there is very attractive. It makes them feel better. And so you attract a lot of users, you attract narcissists, you attract energy vampires, of the like. And at the time, I know people like to have the label healer, empath. And I believe, I try not to really focus on labels, because I believe that we all have this capacity in us. It's just that some of us haven't unlocked it or done enough healing to recognize, this natural innate ability as a human being. So, um, when you start doing your healing, that becomes very noticeable energetically. So I noticed that I kept attracting a certain type of person, and I'll just call it what I know it now to be as an energy vampire. So I have this friend that I met, and I won't really go into too much details, because I don't want the person to be like, is she talking about me? But I had this friend, and they were always like going through, like, they attracted trouble at every turn. Like, wherever they went, trouble or catastrophe, drama followed. And I consider myself to be a pretty drama free person. I'm very zen, very chill, very calm. And that's the way I like to be. So when this person kind of like attached themselves to me, um, I was like, okay, cool. She's, a really nice person. And I feel like there could be, an exchange. We can learn from each other, because that's what relationships are all about. But that's not quite what happened. She would always come to me with all of the drama, the problems. And it wasn't because she wanted me to help her fix them or make them better. It was just because she wanted to dump it out on me. And once she would talk to me and get my energy, or feel that, that positive vibe, the healing energy, she would feel better and I would feel like shit, because she was zapping my energy, and there wasn't an even exchange. And an even exchange, it doesn't have to be money, it doesn't have to be um It can be anything. It can be your time. It can be you, like that person giving you advice or helping you with your problems, or that person listening to you. Whatever it is, there has to be a balance. And when there isn't a balance, you become depleted as the person who is listening or helping, that person constantly. And so I ran from this person. I knew her for a while because we were both involved in like the same organization. So I was around her for like maybe 2 or 3 years, and I noticed the pattern. Every time I left her house, every time I left her, I would just feel horrible. Like I would feel so drained, like I was sucked dry. And I was just like, what is this? I didn't understand that she was sucking my energy. And it wasn't just me, because she would tell the same problems to everyone around her. So I'm like, it's not like you just want advice from me. You just want to complain, basically, because you feel better once you let it all out, because you're not willing to do the work to make yourself better. So you get the energy from, the people who are helping you and listening to you. So I recognized that I felt horrible whenever I left her. I didn't, know why. I just know, this doesn't feel right. So I had avoided her like the plague. And I disappeared. We got back in touch. The cycle began again with the same thing. And then I disappeared again, and then we got back in touch, and the cycle began again. So I'm like, wait a minute, there's like a pattern here. And I was like, okay, so what should I do differently? So this time, instead of talking to her or anything like that, or setting up boundaries, I ran again. So what happens? The universe was like, oh, okay, you don't want to set up boundaries. You don't want to, acknowledge that this is a problem. No problem. So enter in, after I had ignored this person, an even more powerful energy vampire in the form of someone who I was very close with. Um, and I won't go into details again about how I know them. But yeah, she was even more powerful. And so the same kind of dynamic began. And when I noticed like how I was feeling, and this is when I had already started my healing. So I noticed, okay, something's wrong here. It's an energy thing and it's imbalance. So then I began to set boundaries. I began to let the person know I don't, I'm not okay with just having you dump out your problems on me, or I'm not going to help you with the same thing over and over again, or if you're not going to take my advice or listen to me, there's nothing for us to talk about, or let's not talk about that. And that happens a lot too, because I read people's cards. I do energy work as well, Reiki healing. So that happens a lot, where people who don't want to do the work or the healing, they will come to you for you to uplift and inspire them, which requires your energy. And when it's not repaid, it doesn't have to just be money, but if they're not invested in you as much as you're invested in them, then that will suck your energy dry. They're just looking for a boost. So, to make a long story short, I finally learned my lesson. I stopped running. I, let the person know, this has to be, you know, energy has to be balanced in order for it to be a a non-toxic dynamic or relationship. Both of us have to get something from this, you know what I'm saying? So after I set those boundaries, and the person couldn't like feed off of my energy anymore, as I was compassionate, I was loving. I told them how much I appreciated them being in my life and that I loved them, you know. But after I set the boundaries, they disappeared. They blocked me. So it was like, damned if you do, damned if you don't. But I didn't sweat it, because I felt like, this happened for a reason, and it was kind of like a blessing because I don't need to be surrounded by anyone who's just going to um, not reciprocate that energy or that affection. And one thing I learned while reading up about energy vampires is that once you set boundaries with them, they will not be able to get your energy, and they end up feeling like you felt. They'll start feeling drained when they talk to you once they can't zap you of energy. So by me setting boundaries and then her feeling, you know, weird after talking to me, probably she probably might have been like, like something is weird there. Like, why do I feel this way after talking to her? Well, it was because I had put up those boundaries. So that was just one of the patterns that I noticed happening. And once I acknowledged it like that, that healing chaos began. So I just wanted to share that with you because I'm sure you guys experience things like that all the time where the same dynamic, like we notice it a lot, especially in relationships. Like you'll notice you keep dating the same kind of person and you're like, why do I keep attracting this kind of person? Well, because that kind of person is there to teach you a karmic lesson that you need to learn, and you can't go to the next level or meet a person better suited to who you envision yourself to be until you heal that part of yourself and go to that next level. But if you don't notice the pattern or you choose to ignore it, that's when this healing chaos, or in tarot, we call it a tower moment. That's when this healing chaos that I'm describing begins. It's like the universe shakes things up so you can get the evolution that you desire. And it's like if you were to picture yourself as fertile ground, right? And God or the universe is the farmer who digs up the ground so new seeds can be planted. Well, the ground has to be stirred up. Like you take a tool, a hoe, I don't know, I've never farmed, but you you take this tool and you dig into the ground and you stir it up before you put the seeds in so that they can properly take root and sprout. And most of the time, this feels crazy or confusing and like crap, but it's so necessary for your healing and growth. So, let me just tell you guys, I was put to the test with my head and my heart again, and you would think I'd be an expert by now, but life happens and programming, and no, I'm not going to blame anyone else, because it's all about, me becoming a better version of myself. So until I get it right, I'm going to keep going through these things, and I'm kind of appreciative of it at this point, positive mindset. So, like I said, I've been working on this in the last episode, and you should go check it out if you haven't heard it yet. So I thought I was healed enough in that department, but I was wrong. And I was tricked again by my head, not trusting my boyfriend or my heart. And trust me, this time it was really, really rough because he and we've had numerous discussions on this subject. We were, because in the beginning of our relationship, we mirrored each other a lot and triggered each other a lot so that we could heal. So we've had so many discussions and we felt like we had overcome certain obstacles. And when this happened, I really hurt him this time. Like he was so disappointed, upset with me. There were false accusations made, misunderstandings, and the fact that I was the one who hurt him, it really, really hurt me to my core. And I was just so disappointed in myself. Um, I really got emotional this time, guys. Like, there were tears, there were, you know, there was anger. I had to take time and be to myself and give him the space that he needed to work through, getting feeling hurt. So once I took the time to cry and process the emotions I was feeling, I became grateful for the test and failing the test, because it gave me a chance to really understand these emotions. And I obviously hadn't fully dealt with them. And it also gave me an opportunity to share my experience with you all, so that hopefully it will help you, and hopefully you recognize like the same things happening in your life as you heal. So I say all that to say, try to make the most of the healing chaos or these tower moments whenever they happen. Like, find a comfy spot in the middle of that thing. I call it a tornado, um, because when it's over and things settle, the results will reflect the changes you've been wishing for in your life. And sometimes we can get set in our ways, we can get stagnant. And so these times are definitely a blessing in disguise. So kind of see it like that. And it's hella hard when it's happening, uh, but just accept that sometimes to get us where we want to go, shit has to be moved around. It has to be rearranged. It has to be shaken up. And I don't know what a better way of putting that. So, when you sense it's coming, when you notice the patterns, if you're ignoring them, just fasten your seatbelt and get ready for the healing chaos, because once everything is said and done, you'll be so much better for going through what you went through. And as always, thank you for listening to today's episode. If you're interested in more, you can check out our blog at transformativesoulsignals.com. Goes a little deeper into the discussion. You can also follow us over on IG, Facebook, or TikTok at Transformative Soul Signals for more content or to continue on the conversation. Have a comment or a question you need help with? Well, you can send us a recording or message to info@soulsignalspodcast.com that we may even end up featuring on the show. Till next time, take care.